API mocks by default are stateless. And usually this is fine. This works in lots of situations, and it helps keep them simple and low maintenance. But there are some situations in which having some stateful behavior is valuable or even necessary. So if you're testing multi-step workflows where state needs to be consistently preserved between steps, or just if you're doing a product demo and you want the product demo to look realistic in terms of if I make a state change in my app, I want to see it reflected. In these cases, we need to be able to store and retrieve state. So WireMock Cloud has some stateful mocking features that enable this, that allow you to add stateful behavior on top of existing stateless mocks. But there is a bit of a learning curve associated with it. There's some templating involved. There's some sort of understanding how WireMock Cloud works with state. And we wanted to make this sort of more accessible and easier for common use cases. So there's one very common use case for stateful behavior, which is with REST APIs. And this is this kind of very common pattern of having a resource where you can post to create a resource. You can get that data back individually. You can get it in a list. You can update it, and you can delete it, all using a sort of consistent set of verbs and all that kind of thing. So what we've done is we've built a feature that allows you to automate the construction of that set of stubs just based on some fairly simple input data that doesn't require you to understand how the stateful feature works. So I'm going to do a quick demo of this now. So if we head over here, so this is an empty mock API. It's a REST API type, so we have the Open API tab here. And I'm going to start by clicking plus stateful set. So you can see there's three inputs here. There's the base collection path. So this is the URL path that we would post to in order to create something. There's the post body example. So this tells us what the sort of input data looks like when we're creating state. And then there's this save state example, which is what we get back from the post. By default, we get back from the individual get, all that kind of stuff. We can edit these things later after we've run this, but this allows us to do the majority of the work of creating these stubs. We have some tick boxes saying which of the operations we want to create. We'll leave them all ticked for the time being. So let's say that we're building a stateful payments mock API, or let's say one that allows you to create a charge and then retrieve it later, update it, view it, all that kind of thing. So let's say this would be on a base URL path of charges. Now I'm going to go and grab an example of a request and post this in here. So say we might want to post an amount, a currency, and the customer that the charge is associated with. And then the resulting state from this would be the inputs we gave. There'd be an assigned ID that was assigned by the service, and then a few other synthesized fields like the creation date and the status. And so we're going to generate all of these. So let's hit create stateful set, and let's get rid of that. And as we can see, it's generated a whole set of stubs. So we've got list, we've got get, we've got a post to create the stub. There's this catch-all not found as well, which is useful. So if an individual ID isn't present, then we get a 404 that we can customize. If we head over to the Open API page as well, we'll see that it's also generated Open API for this mock, which is very useful. And if we turn on the public documentation, then we should be able to see the documentation pages for it as well. Okay, so this is the documentation that's been generated from the generated Open API. As you can see, we've got all these different operations here. This is a very handy way to test this because it's got the request examples built into the test request maker. So as we can see here, we've got the example we gave originally as the example request body. So I can just hit send API request. And as we can see, that's given me a 201 created. It's generated all this data, and I can go and grab this generated ID field. And I should now be able to get charges by charge ID. So if I paste this into here and send it, then I get back the data that I posted originally. I should also be able to request get charges, which is the list endpoint. And there's one item in there at the moment. I can just go in here again. Let's put in some different values this time. Let's say $200 US. So that's created again, and then I can go back to the list, and there are now 2 items in the list. And then if I want, I can delete them all. We'll go to 204 no content, and now if I go back here, I should see an empty list. So as we can see, we can really easily create a RESTful CRUD endpoint essentially by doing this. We don't have to know anything about the specifics of stateful mocking, but we can get in here and edit and customize this. Sometimes maybe the response we get back from the post endpoint is not quite the same as the response from the get endpoint. We might want to customize this, and we still have full ability to do this. This is the post endpoint. As we can see, the dynamic state's been switched on, and in particular, we have this piece of templating that actually constructs the state. And we can customize this. We can add extra synthesized fields if we want, all of that kind of stuff. And then likewise, so if we look at get charge by charge ID, so at the moment this is just returning whatever is in the state, but we could do a similar kind of thing in the response here if we wanted to. We could do a JSON merge, so we could add additional fields. We could remove fields that we don't want to return in this endpoint and customize it in the way we like. So that's it. Hopefully that gives a good overview of how to create stateful subsets in WireMock Cloud.